I know we were talking about some details when it comes down to your background with your family, but also now you are a witch now, correct?
Right, correct.
Okay, and also before that you were Catholic, right? Okay, so you want to give everybody a rundown as far as how that transferred over to the craft?
Sure. I was born and raised in Catholicism. I was baptized. I had my first communion. I went to CPD classes. When I hit 30, I I did not feel comfortable in that organized religion. And so I asked my mom, I go, being Native American, what was our religion? And she couldn't tell me because she was raised Catholic. Mm-hmm. It was forced onto the family. So she never really knew what kind of religion it was. And when I was learning Wicca from friends who were witches, they were more about the earth and the miracles in it rather than the organized book that everybody wants to read and have their thumbs thump at. So I found it more interesting, and I told my mom, this is what they celebrate. They celebrate Earth. They celebrate everything as a miracle: the trees, the oxygen, the birds, the sky. It's something that I felt very connected to.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think. Yeah. There's a little witch in everybody. And of course, and I've said this a billion times over on my show, and I probably mentioned it on yours, but all these churches, a lot of them are spin-offs of paganism, even though they're not aware of that. And if you really go into the Christ and Jesus, it's actually a mystery school teaching associated with that whole, whatever you want to call it. It's not Christianity. I know they say they're Christians, but being Christed and Christian are two different things. We can be Christed and be of many different religions and spiritual beliefs. So it comes in many formulas, but they don't understand that, and I'm not about to teach them because that connects to the mystery school teachings, and it's for those who actually are the seekers and actually do the work. And I think that you're obviously one of those. It's very interesting, though, and I studied all kinds of religions myself, and of course Catholic as well. And I love the prayers. I thought they had some really nice prayers, but I also saw how corrupt the Vatican was. And I think that was the biggest thing I saw was the corruption. The levels of the hive are so corrupted that even though the people they're pure of heart, I mean, they're very good people and souls, but they're praying and they're connected to a hive that is insidious. So you have to look at that. You really do. And I think when you're on your spiritual path, and I call it a spiritual path, I don't care what it is, you start transcending who you are as a multidimensional being. You become aware of you're an extension to Source, a co-creator, and then you understand the elements of what we really are as conscious beings. So that's just me. I don't want to give a lecture, but that's why I can appreciate the craft too. And I call it the craft, or Wicca is one of them. But for me, it's many other things. And of course, alchemy, as I touched on in your show, because I've transcended a lot to a level of alchemy right now. But I do understand that there's so many levels to the path of spirit. But I do love magic, and I think that people should be less skittish about it because it's really about what we are as multidimensional beings. It's it's interesting with the pentacles and the pentagrams and how people get all flipped out about symbolism, when in fact those symbols are very ancient.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. So
that's just I think that's what comes full circle, is that it's so ancient that people are starting to get back into that type of connection, especially people like you and I who can embrace it and not be afraid or not even question. We don't have to question it because it's plain and simple.
Right. And back in the old days, too, my grandmother was very, very clairvoyant. She was very powerful, clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, and used to actually find people oil wells in Texas and make them very rich, never collected a cent. They were very into the Masons, high up in Masons, and also she was an Eastern Star. So that was interesting. But we grew up with the pentacles and the pentagrams and not understanding, not necessarily with the craft, but later on understanding that's associated with the Masons too. Wow. But also the Sirius. It's really interesting. If you look into it, it's like this is very interesting stuff. So that it's almost in the legacy and the heritage of who we are, and it goes way beyond the physical world. It's about star consciousness, in my opinion, anyway. And it's how you transcend these symbols and what you do with your life, and how if you want to be a good soul and a good person, it doesn't matter which religion you are or what path you walk, as long as you're doing the good fight, right?
Right, and you're not harming anybody.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, I believe in psychic self-defense, and I believe in counterattack only if they're trying to kill you. But literally, it's like, just coexisting is a really good idea. Don't you think so?
Yes. I prefer that rather than, having to fight for your own freedom. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it
What's
is.
funny is I have a friend of mine who's very religious, and he's Catholic, and he and I would get into some very deep discussions about the Vatican and the Pope and how he's not really in charge and how there's a whole other world underneath the whole Vatican city.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked to me about the Illuminati and all that interesting stuff. And he's fascinating to talk to, but he at times sounds like he's like overthrowing it, overthrowing it somehow. You know,
Right.
it's interesting how he went from one place to another within an instant, as far as religion goes, and as far as what the actuality of what the religion is actually planning to do to people and
Right.
to the earth.
Well,
You
and I
know?
think it's always been a control mechanism, and it doesn't matter what religion it is. It's about control manipulation. It's through them that you can only get here, and it's really a deception program. And most people don't realize it because they don't know any better. They're good spirits, good souls, but they just don't know. And some have amnesia when they enter out of this world, is my opinion anyway. But once you become enlightened, you start seeing through the whole thing. You see the game board, and it's like, you can't fool me anymore. And knowing what we are as Christed beings, and you can call it whatever you want, but ascended master consciousness is the Christ. It's a Christ consciousness frequency. So, you still have that within. The higher self is considered basically an ascended master consciousness, which equates to Christ frequency. So it's all the same bandwidth, if you want to call it that. It's just that people don't see it that way. And, once again, it's kind of, to those who know, keep going and keep ascending. So those who don't know, try to learn. Because if they don't learn, they're just going to hold themselves back.
Oh, yeah. What I wanted to ask you, Solaris, is that when I was on my investigations, and it kind of coincides with what we're talking about. I could hear and I could see them for the longest time, and I thought I was seeing and hearing things until we caught EVPs of it, or when I caught pictures and photos of an area. I would say there's someone there, and you could see a shadow being there. Now, is that something that I was seeing for real, or is that implanted in my head?
No, that sounds like it's for real. If you actually saw it and you could capture it later on, I would say that's probably something that you're actually tuned into and picking up on.
These were at hospitals that I've investigated, and I want to take my crew back to Yorktown Memorial Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the ones where I feel Tracy is still there. So that was our last investigation, and that is where everything went wrong that could go wrong. I mean, everybody was on edge and walking on eggshells. I really just blew up. I've learned that when I go into an area that's haunted, I can feel and I can sense their emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And you can sense when somebody was very angry or very sad or scared. I can feel that when I walk into a building.
Mm-hmm.
When I walked into this hospital, I felt extreme rage. Like I could kill everybody that was with me and not bat an eye. I just wanted to throw everybody out the window. And what's funny is Tracy could feel the emotional part of the woman who passed away there. And he was talking to her. Like I told you, he would go into buildings and he would just start talking.
Mm-hmm.
He was connecting to her. And he could feel the emotions. And that would make me more angry because I guess I was feeling and picking up the guy who murdered her.
Wow, you almost sound like you were being a conduit for that.
That's just the strange part about it. When we left, we all felt so drained. And it felt like a part of us was left there.
Wow. So, did you ever do a ceremony to retrieve anything that might have been left over there?
No.
You might want to do that.
We wanted to go back. We want to go back, though.
Well, you can go back physically, but you can also do that, in your own sacred space. You can do that, but I would consider maybe possibly doing something like that. If you feel like you've left something there, do a check and do a scan, and then do some kind of a ceremonial to kind of bring it back. If you ask me, that's what I would do. Also, I was going to ask you if you've ever thought about doing any crossing rituals pertaining to Tracy or anything like that needs to be crossed. Anything that needs to be crossed, an aspect or something.
I didn't think I had to until I started having dreams about him a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what message he was trying to tell me. I just know that he was there, and he still did not talk to me in this dream either, but it felt like he was trying to either praise me for continuing on with the show, and because that was his goal. His goal was to get me out of my shyness and get me, more of an extrovert than an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
So he seems happy when he sees me and like he's proud, but I'm not too sure if that's what the message he's trying to relay to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
Like you, when you tell me you feel and you see things that I'm meant for more, and I feel it too, but I just don't know where to get it from. And I don't know if he's there to push me towards it or I don't know where it's going.
Right. Well, what's interesting is that, obviously with Samhain, we just had Samhain and the veils were very, very thin to begin with. So maybe that was one of the reasons, first of all, he was connecting you with you. It's the season for that sort of thing. But also, I think it was for a support system to some degree. But, the power that you have, and I can tell you're really switched on. So literally just tuning in and asking for assistance or connecting in with these people, you can bring them in easy, I can tell. I forgot to ask you what sign you were, what zodiac sign?
Libra.
You are Libra, that's right. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting because I'm the Aries, so we're the opposites.
You're right.
Yep.
Right.
That's why I'm the fierce warrior, and just I plow everything down and look back later.
Yeah, I'm the air dreamer kind of.
That's good. No, it's usually very creative too. That's good. That brings balance, though. You bring balance not only for yourself but to other people. So that's good too. Yeah, some beautiful gifts. There's no doubt. Well, I think you have come out of that. If you've been shy, you certainly don't seem like it to me. Just being interviewed by you and listening to your show. So whatever's going on, I encourage you to keep stepping it up into your goddess and energy, and just keep doing it because you're really good at it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You definitely. I'll pull you out of that shell too.
I hope so.
Oh, happy to.
I started reading the tarot cards, but then I got too good and started scaring people, so I stopped.
Oh, no way. No, you can't do that. Keep going. No, you keep going, keep transcending.
Yeah, but they didn't think I would be able to read what they were actually trying to hide. And that's what came out. Because
wow.
Consciously, they didn't know what their question was. Because I never ask them their questions. I just tell them shuffle, and then I'll read you what it's telling me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't tell them what they want to hear, right? Yeah, you're a real card reader. Yeah, because some people will. I don't either. I won't tell people what they want to hear. Especially if there's something else in there. But then a year later, they'll come back and say, well, you said that this and this was right. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I mean, I'm not arrogant, but it is true. It does happen. We all know as readers out there, those who are really good, that when you say stuff and people don't pay attention, then a year later, they'll come back and say, oh, yeah, you were right about this, and this. Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
Isn't that interesting? Well, you know what? You can see through things. And sometimes it's good because sometimes people, in my opinion, get entity controlled and shadowed. They get kind of like eclipsed by entities or other things and programs that don't belong to them. And sometimes they can't see it. So when we do a reading on them, we can actually help decode that and show them an aspect of themselves that exists or needs to be cleared out or whatever. So I think there's a potential for that really needs to be looked at, because a lot of people they're so saturated in false ideals. I don't think they know who they are anymore. And the only way to get to that is to go to who we are as soul spirit beings.
Yeah.
It's just like... Yeah, it's just amazing to me. So, like I said, I love the work that you're doing, and I think that you have such potential, and I do want to see the books out there. I know that you have, you tend to write "See You on the Other Side," which connects to where you've been, right?
Yes. Actually, that was my phrase that he picked up, and he liked it, and he said, let's use that for because I would always tell him, I'll see you on the other side. Mm-hmm. And so he goes, let's use that for our ending show. And so he started saying it all the time, and it stuck.
Very interesting. So for you, what does that mean? Is it really about the supernatural realms and staying in touch across the timelines?
I honestly say that because I have this strange feeling that my line will end, and I just want people to know that I'm going to be somewhere else, and that's where I'll see them.
Very nice. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. And of course, as we all know, energy doesn't dissipate, it just changes form. So, and I would really, really encourage everybody, without sounding like gloom and doom, to really appreciate life in the moment, because you just don't know what's going to happen from day to day. This world is crazy, and if you can appreciate life, energy, consciousness, people, and be right into your, be right there in the moment. I think that's huge. I really do. I learned that a long time ago, especially after when I was pulled into that nasty program. I realized how precious life and spirit and soul is, because the technology tries to invade all that. Mm-hmm. So it's just no good. And just like a host for other technologies, besides technology, we have the spirit, the entities that try to do the same thing. And I'd like to ask you a little bit about what your perception is of skinwalkers.
I honestly believe they are true. I believe my mother had many stories about them. The reservation is very dark and very dank and secluded. And she was about 4 or 5 years old one night, and she was able to climb onto the roof of her grandpa's house and was waiting for him to come home from work. So she saw a man with a big rimmed hat walking down the street, and well, it wasn't a street; it's a dirt road. And he came towards the house, and there was a huge bush right there at the corner. And when he went past the bush, he disappeared. And so she was waiting because she thought it was, somebody that she knew. Mm-hmm. Then she went down and told her grandfather there was somebody walking, but now they're not there. And he goes, well, what did you see there, Julia? Julia means child in our language. Mm-hmm. So he went over to the bush where she saw it, and there was a snake there. Mm-hmm. So he said that to stay away because that was an evil entity who was trying to get her to go over there. And he first made himself out to be someone that looked familiar to her and then changed into a snake.
Very interesting. Mm-hmm. Wow. So there is a lot of supernatural force. There's no doubt about that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And she was very sensitive. My grandfather was a medicine man, and he at one point offered her the gifts, as he called it. And it was a little pouch, like a little wanga bag. And he was giving it to her and said, once you take this, everything will be yours. Knowledge, whatever you want, helping people. He goes, this is what you have to deal with, but there's also consequences with it. He goes, if you take the bag, you're going to be blessed with gifts and some horrors. She decided not to, but she was very sensitive to him, and I told her she should have taken the bag, and she goes, no, because she couldn't handle it, because she knew she was too sensitive. It would ruin her.
Wow, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. Some of the things you describe, I mean, I know we talked about the skinwalkers, but they almost sound like Men in Black type of entities and things like that. Mm-hmm. Loitering around the reservations. And, whenever there's supernatural activity, that there's always going to be covert intelligence shadowing. To some degree, there's going to be investigation. I don't know if you've ever come across any suspicious characters, but that usually happens. Did you ever notice anything like that?
Not on the reservation. However, I do have my uncles and aunts. Actually, my uncle just recently posted on Facebook. He was saying that he was sitting outside looking at the moon and taking pictures. That's what we love to do. Mm. And he said he heard a loud screech, and he saw a black car. And he's like, well, they don't look familiar. And then the car came, turned the headlights off, and drove towards their house. Mm. And so he got up to go and get a bat from inside the house just in case. And the car disappeared.
Wow.
So there's been a lot of sightings from my cousins out there that have seen black cars with no license plates. I believe, honestly, because there's been a lot of sightings out in Arizona, some in Phoenix, and, there's just been that area, my mom used to tell me, it's been touched by the devil's hand. Mm-hmm. She told me that a lot. There's a place out there by Eloy, Arizona, and it's called Superstitious Mountain. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I have heard of it, yeah.
The story goes that there's, people, if you're flying on a helicopter, you look down on it, you could see shapes of people frozen in, like, I don't know if it's carbonite or earth. Mm-hmm. But apparently those are people who have lost their lives trying to find the gold in the Superstitious Mountain, which is supposedly a lot of gold there, but you can't find it. You can't ever take anything from that, not even a rock, or bad luck follows you.
Right, yeah, that's like Hawaiian Islands, too. If you go to, if you take anything with the lava, well, and there are people that will ship it back when they get to the mainland. They don't want it because of Madame Pele come after. And you might think that's funny, but seriously, I lived there. And there's night marchers and all sorts of things. I mean, yeah, it's powerful. It really is. So I don't discount that. I always say don't piss off the spirit world because we think we're badass here. But when you leave and it and I know it, we're very powerful in our immortal designs. So, there's all kinds of stuff that can happen to people, I would say. And that's one thing I love about the Native American community is that they're very in tune to those things and understand. And I like the fact that they haven't forgotten that legacy. It sounds like they haven't. Do you think they have over the decades through maybe entrainment programming, or have they kept that benchmark of their own spiritual backgrounds?
I know my relatives have tried to, but the younger generation think it's silly. They don't have the same, and I don't know if it's the education system over there that's not teaching them the tradition.
Right.
Because, things change, but when things change, it just messes up the entire timeline, or it messes up.
Well, yeah, and what do you replace it with? I don't mind change, but change for the better. But when you change things and then there's nothing to replace it with but something worse, that's a problem, in my opinion, anyway. So, but yeah, I see that too. And it's just with all generations. I see the generations coming up. I know every generation says this about the ones coming up, like what happened, what's wrong with these people. But honestly, it's very interesting to see that these people seem to have lost touch with their celestial compass, their spiritual compass to me. And I'm just talking about everybody across the board. I see a very small percentage of people that are actually getting it. And a lot of people are lost. So, it's like if you become these big beacons of light and these lighthouses, yeah, we can be there for these people, but, they've got to understand that they need to step it up a little bit. So I was curious about that because it's such a beautiful tradition. And, I have a little bit of Cherokee in me from my grandmother, my grandfather's mother. But I can tell you that there was none of that mentioned. I mean, we just didn't really know much about it. And it's a shame because some of the information was lost,
Right.
So...
You never thought about going and searching?
Well, my sister's a historian, so she does all that with our heritage. We have a really interesting heritage, but I never got into, I have the skill level. I know that there's stuff from my Native American side that's just there naturally. So now I understand where it's coming from. And I also understand the fact that we've all had very supernatural lives. My family, we've all been very psychic and very gifted on many levels on that level. So I think that comes from that area too. So it's very interesting, but a lot of people just don't know. I mean, they just don't get in touch with that side, and I think that's something that should not be lost.
Yes, and I try to cling on to as much as my mom taught me, including the language, and I try to just hold on to everything that she was because I'm a part of her and she's a part of me. So it's just something that I don't think people should let go of. I don't think it's pretty sad when people let go of who they are or where they stem from.
I agree, and I have to say, and I know you have to go, right? Because you have to go pick somebody up. Is that right?
Yes, I have to pick up my husband.
All right. Well, I'm going to have you back on hyperspace. So that's and I do want to thank you for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure to talk to you. It really is, Genna. It's been wonderful. And of course, if people want to reach out to you real quick, how do they do that?
They can reach me at thebasementfiles@yahoo.com, or they can reach me on social media at The Basement Files or Genna Padilla Valadez. If you want to go to my YouTube channels, it's Dark Realms Texas, and you can reach me a myriad of ways. I've got Twitter, Instagram, all the links there.
Perfect. Well, I must say it's been a pleasure to interview you, and I look forward to having you back on Hyperspace, and I know I don't want to keep you because I just saw your text that you had to go. You're in and out like the wind, but that's okay. And I love you and your wonderful star sister. So you take care. And until next time.
Okay. I love you too, honey. Thank you so much for having me on.
My pleasure. It's been wonderful to talk to you. You take care.
See you next time. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, everybody. She had to leave, and I hope you enjoyed that interview. I know it was pretty brief. I'm going to have her back on Hyperspace, and she'll be on my other show at KCOR Digital Radio Network, and I'll send everybody information on that one. And she's wonderful, a wonderful being, and I encourage everybody to tune into her show. She has a lot of depth. The one thing I notice about people is that they don't realize how much light they generate and who they are. It's like, they need encouragement and support. Not that she's insecure in any form of dimensional space. It's just that people don't tell each other how special they are. And I think that's a shame. I think people lost that way of communicating with each other, paying compliments or seeing the light in somebody and acknowledging that light, acknowledging that spirit, acknowledging that energy. It's so significant. So I encourage everybody out there to do that. I'm not going to give you a lecture, but I think that some aspects of what we are as people has been lost to some degree or distracted. And I don't think people should be distracted. We need to reset everything on a more productive scale. So that's just me and my 2 cents. But anyway, so I've got a half an hour here left. I don't know if anybody wants to call in or not. I don't even know if I can take calls. If JerryB, if you want to call in and say hi and chat for half an hour, or anybody else out there, feel free to do that. I'm not sure what we are set up for here on the studio, so I forgot about how that works. Anyways, what else do I want to communicate? Well, that's part of it. If you didn't catch my show last night for Hyperspace Casey, where I had Robert Sullivan IV on, that was a really good show. And I would encourage everybody to check out the archive on that one, because it was a very, very excellent show with a lot of good details in there. So what else do I want to communicate for now? I think we touched a little bit on what was going on in the timeline here. I don't want to go into much news. The news is the news. It's mainstream propaganda for the most part, and it's just a downer. Just too much weirdness going on with that one. So, and I think we understand very clearly that we're dealing with energy, streams of energy, consciousness, manipulation of energy, and once we navigate on those levels, we just have to keep rising above all these false matrices. And I think that the matrix that they've created, the false one, is literally imploding right before our eyes. And what's interesting is if you're connected to that, then it will be a fragmentation for you. But if you're connected to what we call the multidimensional spaces, multidimensional waves, I think that you'll be able to ride things a lot easier and also be able to see with more perspective insofar as who you are as what I call multidimensional beings. You know, when I used to talk about a lot of this stuff, it was like speaking a foreign language, and people would look at me like sideways. They wouldn't understand what I was talking about. I started talking about DNA activation way back in the day before it became popular and New Age oriented. And now people are starting to get it. And not only people starting to get it, the mainstream science community is literally almost copying word for word stuff that I've written about over 25 years ago. I'm not kidding you. And it's not just me that's been writing about it, but I'll just tell you that those of us who have been on the mystery school and in the mystery schools and understand consciousness and understand how DNA works, consciousness frequency works, and how we can program our cells and our atoms to literally resonate with multidimensional waves of higher consciousness, that's really the key to our revolution here, is really reprogramming who we are as multidimensional beings. And one of the reasons they use their false matrix is to literally encapsulate us to a point where they're trying to program our minds, our bodies into their false matrix so they can control, manipulate our energy. It's an energy suck any way you look at it. So I would always say to you is keep your free will really fortified. You know, don't let these people bring you down. Don't let them control and manipulate your brainwaves. Don't let them control and manipulate who you are and program you into a false belief system or make you feel guilty because you don't want to be part of that false belief system, because I see that also. I see a lot of people, whether it's religion or whatever, trying to pull people into these false matrix, the false matrices. And if they don't subscribe to it, well, they'll try to make you feel guilty, or they'll put you on whatever trip, and it's just not okay. So, it's just not good. Anyways, gosh, you guys, I don't know what I can say for like a half an hour. I'm not used to doing monologues. I can do monologues, but at least we got her on tonight, so that was good. I was really glad I know she had to go pick somebody up, so. But she's wonderful, and I would encourage you to go check out her show. She's good. Get her over here. I don't think she'd want to leave the station, though. But anyways, if you haven't looked at my new books, check them out. I might as well do a nice shameless plug, right? So I've got all my cool books on Amazon.com. 1 Million Miles Till Midnight, of course, Between the Mirror and the Lens. That's on Amazon and also on GlennaT.com publishing. And if you go through GlennaT, it seems to me like the shipping's a little more expensive. So I would encourage you, if you want to buy the book, just to go over on Amazon. It's a lot better for you financially. And these books are super, super inexpensive, and they make very nice stocking stuffers. So keep that in mind. If you guys have any questions in chat, just go ahead and text me, and I'll try to answer them. So, hey, Mr. Rowe, call Solaris. That's from JerryB. Where is Mr. Rowe? Is he in there? Hey, why don't you call in, bud? He's probably half asleep. I know that he was working hard today, and he was online earlier. I think he was at the station. They were all having a round table or something. So he's probably... Are you bored, Mr. Rowe? Do you want to talk to me for 25 minutes? He's probably asleep. He might be getting his apple juice. What about you, JerryB? I'm gonna drag one of them in. But I won't do that. I think that's rude to drag people in. If they want to call me, that's fine. But I can't do that. I can't just sit here and drag people into a radio show. That's tacky. I think if people do that to me, I would hang up on them. So that's just not nice, is it? So anyways, what else do we talk about here? Not much going on with Antarctica. I hear that's kind of been quiet. It seems like all these things people like to talk about, and all of a sudden it just goes and it fades away very, very quickly, doesn't it? So I would like to ask one thing. I know I won't get too political, but why on earth is Hillary Clinton still walking the streets and signing off on books when she should be behind bars? And why is Mueller not behind bars? Why is the FBI, the corrupt FBI, not behind bars? Why don't they clean out the FBI and the alphabet agencies and get the good guys promoted and the assholes, excuse my French, fired? Oh, here we go, JerryB. I don't know what's going on there. I think I just put the station on hold. Jerry, I'll drag you in. That's just weird. This station, it's not the station, it's Skype. It's insane. Crazy, weird Skype. Hi there. Can you hear me? I can see your picture. Jerry? Can anybody hear me anymore? This is the full moon. Jerry, are you there? Because I see your picture, but I can't see. Okay, he's saying yes, but there's no audio. I can't hear a word you're saying. So that's interesting. But I do get your picture. Let me try calling you back. That's just weird. Gee, can you imagine if we were in space and we were trying to deal with Skype in space? If it's this crappy here, I'd hate to think what it's like off planet. Of course, we have better technology than that. Jerry, are you there? No. That's interesting. I just can't get any audio from you at all. So I do see your picture, but there's nothing there. I can try one more time. I think you guys can hear me in the chat though, right? So it's a very, very strange thing that it's not letting it activate. Hang on for a second. Jerry? Nope, no audio, bud. Ah, the spirits are not working tonight.
How's that?
Oh, there you are. So you were playing possum.
No, it just started working just a second ago. I have no idea why it didn't work.
Well, you know how the gremlins and the wires work around here, right? How you doing, Jerry?
Well, I really don't have a lot to add. I just
okay.
enjoy listening to you talk so much. You're just like an encyclopedia, just starts going and just keeps going.
Yeah, that's me. I don't know when to shut up.
No, you're fine.
Well, hey, I don't like doing monologues. I can do a monologue and I can talk and I can do a lot of things, but it's nice to have a conversation, And even if you don't have much to say, it's kind of like call in, say hello, tell me how your day's going.
I don't really call in that much, but if you ask me to, and I'm more than welcome to call in.
I know the check's in the mail, Jerry. I bribe. No, I'm kidding. It would have been you or Mr. Rowe.
Yeah, I tried to get Mr. Rowe to call in. He's much more exciting than I am.
You both are wonderful. Yeah. So how's your day going?
It's going pretty good. Going pretty good. Kids are gone most of the day, so it's just me and Simon. But
the dog, yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting day. I got a little bit of work done, and it's kind of chilly here. It's in the 50s, but it's going down to the high, like 38 at night. Mm-hmm. But it's not bad for this time of year, though.
No, that's not too bad. So, well, hey, we survived the threat of Antifa and all the little rejects. Yeah. So, I don't know if you caught any of the footage with Alex Jones or the Red Elephants, but it was great.
I did. I caught a lot of the laughter that was going on. But, tomorrow might be the day that they pull some stuff. Who knows, But it's interesting, the comments, they don't have any comments. They have these little 2-word things like, F you and blah, blah, blah. And it's the same kids. Signs. They don't have any minds. They just won't talk to you.
No, they're really socially engineered. That's social engineering at its worst, if you ask me.
I got to feel bad for them. We're losing a whole generation here.
Yeah, they're messed up. I agree with you, but there's nothing you can do. It's like a drug addict. They're too far gone. I mean, they have to help themselves, and they have to snap out of it and get themselves out of that rut. And also the programming. They've subjected themselves to so many programs, whether it's mainstream media propaganda or movies, or there are celebrities that are brainwashing them, and whatever it is, or overpaid entertainers, as I like to call them, because they're not celebrities. But yeah, Jerry, they're a lost cause. And and that's what I mean. Life is so precious, and these people are bickering and pissing and moaning about things that are like, they should be grateful. They should be kissing the ground of this American land that they are here, that they were born here, if they are born here, that they actually are allowed to be here. I just don't think people appreciate things until they're gone, right?
Yeah, well, I look back, and it's like I was telling, we were talking with you, me, and Tina Marie that one night. I think the problem is they got classes in college now called social justice warrior class. Oh, for Christ's sake. What kind of a class can you take as a social justice warrior?
I don't know.
Get a job. All you can do is get hired by Soros and go out there and and hold the stupid sign for 8 hours.
They're not warriors. Warriors are people who are literally can fight or in the battlefield, literally, physically. In my opinion,
I know, but the point is that they actually have classes in college now. That's a class.
It's ridiculous. Well, the colleges are just a joke anyway. We always knew that colleges were a joke, that basically a financial suck. You get a piece of paper that says you're worth something, but literally most of the data that they get taught is incorrect, or it's edited or censored. It's not even accurate history. So what are they learning? They waltz out of there with their PhDs, and then they can't even find a job. They wind up living in the basement with their parents, or for their, it's just crazy.
Back in the day, some of the people I went to school with, some of them grew up to be outstanding, upright citizens, and the rest of them ended up being communists. And they're the ones that are trying to take everything over now. They just want to sit back and drain everything from everybody else, but they don't realize that once the money's gone, and capitalism's gone, there's nobody to regenerate anything anymore. It's all gone.
Well, if they go and live in other foreign countries that are connected to communism or anything worse, they're going to realize very quickly that they're nothing but slaves, and that they'll be lucky if their body parts don't get harvested. I mean, I'm not kidding you. It's not a pretty world in those areas, and I don't think they've ever had a taste of it. I would say for those people who are part of that, ship them over to a hardcore communist country and let them get a taste of what it's really like, and then tell me what it's like, and then come back, and then they'll appreciate America, and they'll never, ever, ever protest again.
Oh yeah. Well, when Seriously. I spent a year in South Korea when I was in the military, and even being in South Korea with all the things that you have here in the United States, you get back to this country and you are so thankful to be an American. Just think if that was North Korea I was in. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I'm still concerned about the president's trip, but I'm sure he'll be okay. I just was trying to catch some footage here and there, so it sounds like,
he'll be fine.
Yeah. I know that they had some missiles flying over there towards the Middle East or something like that. I caught an article. I don't know if you saw that one. I probably should send it over, but some other stuff that was going on there. So, and insofar as the quote-unquote blackout drill goes, so far so good with that. The DOD was planning some kind of a national blackout drill.
Yeah, we're supposed to be EMP pulse drill today through the 6th.
Well, so far so good on that one. So we'll just wait and see. But, honestly, I would just say just learn to navigate on higher levels of consciousness and also ride the multidimensional waves. You know how to survive. I know how to survive. This world is crazy. Let's just leave it at that and just keep staying in our nice center and just keep moving and keep ascending, as I say, because it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better. Not unless people really snap out of it. But I am very grateful still that we have a president there who can take the helm. There he. Okay, so I keep putting the studio on hold. Go figure. Yeah. Here, I'm going to grab Mr. Rowe.
There you go.
All right, call in. Mr. Rowe. Is it my evil twin? My good twin?
It's your twin.
There's pictures there, but once again,
it's the shadow man.
I don't know if you can hear me or not. I'll try and contact you again. Mr. Rowe, can you hear us? Oh, that is such a drag.
I did hear that Rand Paul got attacked by somebody today. He's okay, and they arrested the guy. But they went to his house.
There he is. I heard that too. Hello, Mr. Rowe.
Okay, I've called in. I have nothing to say, though.
You know what? I think that's perfect because I had nothing to say either. So I was just going to run on a monologue and bore
me neither.
So, I can only talk about so many things for so long until people go, I'm going to sleep now. Good night.
I was listening to the police tactical channel for the San Francisco, Antifa thing, and it's been very quiet. They're like, well, they're not doing anything.
That's good. And as I think Jerry was kind of touching on, they might try something or somebody else maybe the next few days. But still, I think everybody's so tired of them right now. If they make a move, we're all going to jump on them. I'm not kidding you. I think everybody's fed up with them.
Yeah, it just goes to show, like, this was supposed to be their day of rage that it expanded into hundreds to thousands to millions for weeks until, the regime is overthrown. And it goes to show that since nobody on the first day, if it got off with this kind of dud, that most of the country is not thinking like, these leftist Antifa folks. Most people probably have common sense enough to say, look, we're not going to run around and yell in the streets. And so.
Yeah, well, give them a crayon and coloring book and they should be okay.
Antifa is not, they're just a front. They don't bother me at all. The ones that bother me are the deep state because they're the ones that would be behind the scenes actually pulling some heavy stuff off while Antifa's out there getting their butts kicked, as a distraction. I think they're just a distraction.
they're using useful idiots and fodder. You know, I was thinking about every generation that is at college level pretty much comes into the world with, you know, they don't have a reference point, but they do want to do good. You know, I mean, I know when I was that age, I wanted to change the world, and unfortunately, they don't have they weren't alive to see socialism in action in the older, you know, as the older folks have, and that we're repeating the same type of, you know, they're being duped, like back in the back like with the Cultural Revolution and these folks that did these revolutions for communist and socialist over countries. Where has that gotten anybody? And they're doing it the same kind of thing. You know, they're calling for revolution to stomp out capitalism and all this other crap, and they don't even have a game plan. I mean, what do they want to create, a power vacuum or something? And then, you know, it'd be worse than it is already. I mean, there's no country on earth that is a perfect model. I haven't found one that's better than the current situation that we're in. I mean, the United States is kind of messed up in a lot of ways. There's a lot of corruption going on, but at the same time, it's got a lot of going for it in its inception. That, you know, we are able to do a lot of things that you can't do in other countries. So.
Oh, you see, Mr. Rowe, you and I have been out of country, so we know how good we have it here. A lot of these people haven't been out of their own state, let alone out of the country.
Yeah,
they just don't realize how really, you know, we're not perfect, and yeah, there's a history there that's good and bad, but we keep thriving to be better, and we do have more freedoms here than anywhere in the rest of the world. Yeah. And people just don't appreciate it. You know, they just don't know how good they have it.
Yeah, the grass isn't greener, and that's the problem. It's not going to be greener with their whole little agenda going on. But I think the deep state, you know, as we were touching on, I think that's the biggest problem we have right now, is to filter out all these corrupt SOBs. And I was going to say, you know, these people in these alphabet agencies, they're the biggest ones. It's the biggest culprits. We've got to clean it out. We've got to get those things under control, because they've orchestrated a heck of a lot of this stuff.
Well, here's something. I don't know if you heard. Did you hear I covered for John Wayne. And I think that it's possible that Donald Trump has known about this whole uranium deal before the election, and that this is the whole thing has been a rope-a-dope, and that's why we're seeing people go down, because they've had, in hindsight, and the generals that were all purged and fired, well, you know, they have fraternal organizations and connections, and just because you're no longer an active duty military general doesn't mean that all your influence just suddenly goes away. So behind the scenes, I think they approached Trump, and they pretty much have orchestrated this entire draining the swamp, taking back the republic kind of thing from the traitorous coup that has already taken place, and keeping it, denying Hillary Clinton and her ilk the control of the nation. And now
I was just talking to Solaris the other night about that, Mr. Rowe, that Trump has basically is like a spider. He set the web up, and he's playing the rope-a-dope, and he's just sitting there waiting for all these people to come into play, and he's letting them hang themselves, because he knows exactly what's going on. And I've been saying this for 2 months now. That I said I finally figured it out. He's letting them all come into the arena and hang each other, and he knows that eventually they'll turn on each other. And what's happening? Deborah Brazil, see, they're all starting to turn on each other. Saudi Arabia, they got rid of a bunch of people. He's sitting back, he set the stage, and now he's going, okay, let's watch this go down. I think that's exactly what's been going on.
Well, he was kind of trolling even before the election, when he was saying things like, oh, Putin and I are going to be the best of friends.
Right.
Russia and I, we're going to have all kinds of interesting deals and relationships. And, you know, it's really going to be, I think, we can work with Russia. And knowing, he said that knowing he was basically trolling the folks that already were the best of friends with Russia.
He's got this shiny little object here. And wherever he wants anybody to go, he just throws it and goes, look it. He throws it. And they all look at it. He goes, there it is. And they chase it down like Zorro.
They have been dealing with the uranium. They had made that uranium deal, and this is something that went up all the way to the very top levels, you know, of the government. And Trump knows all of it, and so does Sessions. And they knew this before Trump was elected. So I think now they are starting to realize this, and it's too late. And so now they're like you said, they're turning on each other. Now, I hope Donna Brazil doesn't, commit suicide in the next day or two. But, she's probably pissed off Hillary pretty much. And I could hear Hillary now. If I'm going down, I'm taking somebody with me. Kill her all.
Oh yeah, she said that many a times. But she threw Donna Brazil underneath the bus when she she came at Donna Brazil big time back during the election thing, and Donna didn't forget that. She didn't forget that. This is payback. Mm-hmm. This book of hers is payback, because she knows that the way that the conversation, that the people were talking about, they said she was so rude to Donna Brazil. She treated her like a dog. And people are going to remember stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's all imploding right before our eyes, which is kind of entertaining in a weird way, right? As long as we don't get sucked down with them like the Titanic, it'll be fine.
And you see all their friends covering for each other. You got the media and you got Hollywood, and Hollywood has their issues with the pedophilia. The politicians have their issues with treason and Russian collusion with the uranium deal. I'm curious to see what's going to take down the media, because the NFL, well, they've had their little day in the sun. And so now we have the news media, CNN, Fox. This is the next domino to fall. So I'm curious to see what pops up.
Wait till
EMP pulse.
wait till Trump finishes the deal here with some of these companies, because, this is something that I've been talking about for years, but Trump's been the only guy that had the balls to try it. He's going to be bringing back somewhere between $3 and $4 trillion back into this country. That's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. That's going to really, really make a difference in this country.
Yeah,
$3 to $4 trillion back into this country, to build things and to do.
And people that say, well, look at Trump, he's lowering the tax rates.
The offshore accounts is what I'm talking about.
People were saying, some person was telling me, well, Trump is doing bad thing because he's lowering the tax rate for the corporation. And I said, well, the reason he's lowering the tax rate is because other corporations have lower tax rates in other countries. And if you don't do that, then these corporations are not going to come back to America. And if they don't come back to America, they won't have jobs. And then they kind of said, well, I didn't think of it that way. And I said, well, yeah, there you go. Because that's what the media told them. So, well, they sort of omitted that, well, there's a reason why, we have to be competitive. Otherwise, Apple is going to have their factory in Laos instead of the United States or what. So,
well, the two presidents in our vein in our lifetime here, Kennedy and Reagan lowered the taxes, and you've seen the boom in the economies. There was a time, if people will look into their history, they can go to the library, go online, whatever you want, but there was a time where they eliminated all the taxes in this country. It was a short period of time. And man, everything was flourishing. All the politicians would go, wow, man, look at all this stuff. We need to get a piece of the action. So then they start bringing the taxes back. Well, it was just going like gangbusters without any taxes. Only thing they had was tariffs.
Well, they just don't want America to have a middle class because then we're too powerful and we can be independent. They want us to be dependent on other nations. We have to get all our stuff from China. We have to, have everybody else take care of our. It's sort of like a global socialism on a country level, with these treaties. We have to lower ourselves to the lowest common denominators with things like the Pacific Partnership and these kinds of things. That's ridiculous. Why be the slowest car in the race?
Well, our founding fathers were very intelligent people. They were a lot smarter than the people nowadays, because they knew that, governors, like a governor on a vehicle, it governs the speed. It won't let you go any faster. Government is to control regulations, laws. That's what they do. You need some type of government just to make things work. But like they said, only enough to, so there's not anarchy, but never let it grow out of hand, because if you let it grow out of hand, then it's all over. You lose your republic. And that's where we're at right now. The government has more people in government than they do in the private sector. We need to bring that back. And Trump's trying to do it. He's not filling all those slots because he knows a lot of them are just they're slots for somebody's cousin or their uncle or brother.
It's the largest employer. The government is the largest employer in the United States now.
Absolutely.
Well, if they weren't so crooked, it wouldn't be hard. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem working for them if they weren't so damn crooked.
Right.
That's the problem we're dealing with, and that's why I say you have to clean it out. I mean, I don't mind a clean system, but something's got to give here. It's so corrupt, it's disgusting.
It's beyond corrupt. There's actually 80 people in the Congress that are card-carrying communists and part of the Muslim Brotherhood. You know.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's got to go. And so is Homeland Security. They've infiltrated too.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, it's like we can take care of our homeland. We need to clean this country up, and I think that's why President Trump is in office, obviously, to hopefully get that. And he's been doing a good job. I must say, he's been doing good. So
well,
definitely protected. He's got the military behind him. He has access to the latest technologies, and so he's got some folks running scared, and that's why we see. And you know, it's just sad that we see so many people that have bought the Kool-Aid, the electronic brainwash psychological Kool-Aid of jump on the hate Trump bandwagon. He's a bad man. Oh, he's a Cheeto. Oh, he's a misogynist and all this crap.
Exactly.
I mean, oh my God.
I agree. I feel so bad for him. You know, he's been through a lot, but he's strong as steel. So
it's hip to hate Trump. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I was sort of indifferent beforehand, but I don't even care if he's an actor or whatnot. I like the guy.
Oh, I love Trump. You know me. I was supporting him day one. You know, and I lost a lot of listeners because of that. Believe me.
I lost some friends. I don't care. You know,
I don't care either. Yeah, I lost friends too, and I didn't care because I understand very clearly where we're at in this country, and I understand where he's at. So.
Well, we all want the same thing he wants. We want a strong America. We want a friendly, kind America. We want a fair America. That's all we want. You know, we don't want to control anybody else. We just want to have control over our own lives.
Yeah.
You know, that's all anybody can ask. And if that's a bad thing, then I'm sorry. You know, I don't know what else to say.
We don't have to apologize for being Americans and following the American dream and the spirit of America. And that's what our ancestors founded this country on. Go ahead.
And if that's oppressive, then I guess I'm an oppressor.
Well, you know, I come from an old lineage, as you know. We came over on the Mayflower. I'm not going to keep preaching that to everybody, but I do know my legacy and connections to presidents. And I'll tell you point blank, man, I support this country and the blood and the people that have died in the name of this, you know, to protect us here and keep this country safe and fortified. So
I just want to say, Mr. Rowe, before I forget here, first slips my brain, that I appreciate all the information you're giving people on Bitcoin, because I think it is important whether somebody can buy a whole coin or just a little sliver here or there. It's not a bad idea to have something else as a backup besides the greenbacks, you know, a little silver, maybe a little gold, or it's a good thing to be a part of. I'm not saying that people should just jump all in, but I think the education you're doing on it is a good thing. And whether somebody wants to do it or not, it's completely up to them. But I think it's very informative. I appreciate the work you've done on it.
Me too.
Thank you. And I hope that some folks out there have benefited from the advice, and we will all go to the moon together. It's not too late. So
yeah, well, I've got to get my button gear on that, and I do appreciate everything you do, Mr. Rowe. By the way, what you do at the station as well. And I want to thank everybody out there who listens and tunes in. But you know, you've done some phenomenal work here at the station. You're cloaked on a lot of levels, but I appreciate you and thank you for calling in. Both of you, thank you for calling in tonight. And JerryB, it's always good to have you call in and talk to me. So thank you, Genna.
I got nothing to say.
Well, you know, I was like that too, and I was glad my guest showed up. And I know we're just about out of time here. Hey, let everybody know how to tune into your show, Mr. Rowe.
Mondays and Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Pacific time, and on Thursdays, 5 p.m. Pacific on Studio B. Mondays is a crypto show, Tuesdays is whatever, and Thursdays is whatever, in 2 hours, and sometimes I have a guest. I think next week, I believe we have Dr. Deagle coming back. So.
Nice. Very good. Awesome. And you, JerryB, what are you up to? I know you used to do producing, but you're in the shadows now.
Yeah, I might come out with a new show called Who Gives a Rat's Ass.
That's right. I'm going to be a guest on that show. We're going to just sit there and flip off the world. No, I'm just kidding.
I think this is the first time the three of us have been on together.
Probably. It's been great, though. I appreciate both of you calling me. I really do. It's nice because otherwise
I
would
knew
be
if I was on with you or Mr. Rowe that the conversation would start because it always does, you know.
Oh yeah, well all of us can talk. There's no doubt about that one. Yeah, and I do want to thank everybody for tuning in over here, and make sure you stay tuned for Shiny Side Out with David Dudger and Becky coming up next to Sell You On tonight from Down Under, as they always do with their awesome show. And I'll find out what they're talking about tonight. And also, don't forget that I guess we have the clocks go back 1 hour. Is that right? Tonight?
Is that tonight? Yeah, I guess so. Huh?
So let's not forget that one. And I'm not sure what they're talking about tonight. So it is daylight savings time, I guess, isn't the illusion I was going to be kicking in. So I think our clock's going to kick in right now. I wonder, Mr. Rowe, because they're switching.
Last time David got messed up there and he didn't make it in time, remember?
David's right here. He just texted me.
Oh, okay.
So he asked me when the show was ending, but I was going to ask you all, is the server working? Because if they're setting the clocks back.
It's 1:58 right now, so it should.
It should have kicked in already.
Yeah, it should still work. I think since Hawk redid it, it's a minute or two after.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I was thinking to myself maybe I had to disconnect this thing, but
maybe it won't kick in. I don't know. Maybe since I said that, it won't. Who knows?
Well, we're stuck in the twilight zone. It's called the twilight zone of space-time continuum, right? But I do want to thank you both for joining me. It's been great.